and it would forever be known as the darkest day in the history of the ninja village of the Hidden Leaf. It was the day the dreaded nine-tailed fox demon attacked their land and their village. It was a huge monster. Its red chakra could be seen and felt by people over a mile away. The ninjas that survived the battle would still be able to tell how they could feel the killer intent of the giant fox demon, how it felt like a giant weight crushing them. But they had to protect their village, and so they fought on. Many died in that battle. Attacks against the demon were brushed aside as though they were nothing. Scores of ninjas died when it counterattacked. It was a pure nightmare, that battle that night. Many thought that it was the end of things. That they would all die and then it would go on and attack their village, killing everyone they held dear. But it was their leader, the fourth Hokage, a man named Minato Namikaze, that ended it all. There was only one thing he could do. At that moment he stood on the mountain looking over the battle. He held a small bundle in his arms. The man was tall with yellow spike hair and blue eyes as he looked on with a great sadness in his heart. The bundle in his arms moved and he looked down and smiled at the little boy that had just been born. "I'm sorry, Naruto, I have no choice. I have to save the village, and there is only one technique I know of that will do it." He smiled at the young boy and his heart broke, knowing this was the only time he would ever hold his son like this. "You deserve more than this, my son. You deserve to live with your family." He closed his eyes. The mother of his child, Kushina Uzumaki, the greatest love of his life, had died in childbirth. She had suffered an injury in the attack and went into labor. But it was difficult and she had lost too much blood. All the medical nins were at the front line, and so he had been there for his love before she had died with their son in her arms. He placed a tarp over her body. She was still back there in his personal quarters. He couldn't leave her side even at a time like this, but she was gone now and a large part of his heart went with her. They hadn't even been officially married since the Dam Council didn't approve of him marrying someone outside of their village. But he still loved her and she loved him. They had stayed together and had to keep his relationship a secret. Only a trusted few, like his old sensei Jiraiya, his last student Kakashi, and the previous Hokage. But now he had to make yet another sacrifice. He had left a note for those closest to him in his chambers. And he had one on his persons just in case, but tonight was the night he knew he was going to die. There was an odd piece to it. In a way he would see his beloved again, but he didn't want to leave this life. He loved his village and the people, and he wanted to see his son grow up. He felt the stings in his eyes as his tears started to fall, how he wanted to see little Naruto grow up. But he was Hokage, he had to protect the village, and his duty outweighed what he wanted in life. He just hoped that Naruto would one day forgive him and understand why he had to leave him. He had left one of his tags he used for his Flaying Thunder God technique, something he used that teleported him around, the same technique that earned him the name the Yellow Flash. In an instant he was transported across the area. He could hear the battle going on as he appeared among his people. "Hokage?" A few cried out. "Keep the line. I want you to try and keep it still," he ordered out. Ninjas went out to surround the beast, which wasn't an easy task. He felt the presence of an old friend behind him. "So finally here, how is she?" He turned to see the Toad Sage Jiraiya there. He had arrived just in time to help things out. Next to him he could see Sarutobi with him. Even though retired as Hokage, the old man was still here in his black and gray battle armor, fighting as well. There was no surprise in that, but they saw the look on the young man's face, and both older men felt that something horrible happened. "She's gone." It was the only thing he could say to them. Both men felt sorrow for him. They knew just how much he loved her and how much pain he had to be in. Then he surprised them both by smiling a little and turned to show them the bundle. "This is my son, Naruto." Sarutobi gave a small smile at the sight of the young boy. He already could see that the boy looked like his father. But Jiraiya frowned. He knew his student well and he knew that something was wrong. "Tell me, why did you bring your infant child here? What do you have planned?" The Hokage smiled, although there was no humor in it. "I knew you'd figured out I had something planned, old perv. There is a way to save the day, but I need my son's help." He reached into his clothing and pulled out a sealed letter. "Please come and find us when it's over, and you'll find another in my chamber. There is one of my son when he's old enough that I want him to read. Also tell Kakashi I'm sorry, he's lost so much and I hate for him to lose another precious person in his life." Jiraiya took the note with hard eyes. He knew what the boy had planned, or at least an idea. He didn't want him to go. Hell, he was an inch from beating the hell out of him and forcing him not to go. But before he could object, he was gone thanks to that damn technique of his. The older man looked at the letter and felt his sensei next to him. He looked at the older man's face and he could see that he knew as well. "I hate this," was the only thing the Toad Sage could say. "So do I," Sarutobi said to his old student. He wished Tsunade was here as well, but she had left the village and he wasn't sure where she was these days. It was only luck that Jiraiya had been wandering close enough to get here. Now he was seeing that young man go out there and for the last time. If the night had been raining it would have set the dark mood perfectly. Later, Kakashi Hatake was a very young man and yet had already reached the level of Jonin. He had a large white hair that always seemed to stand up defying gravity. He was sitting with his back to a tree breathing hard. Not long ago the demon had been defeated. It was said that the fourth had arrived and somehow defeated it. He smiled at the thought of his sensei being able to defeat such a monster. He looked around with his one eye over the carnage. Bodies were everywhere. People cried out in pain, some as they were dying. Medical nins were doing their best, but there were just so many people injured and dying. Kakashi himself felt a few blows, nothing lethal, but he needed some rest. He wished he could block out the sounds though. He felt a split lip under his mask too. He sighed at that. It was one of the problems of always wearing a mask. He didn't have to, of course, but it was just his style. Hell, no one knew what he looked like since he had worn one as far back as people could remember. He looked again with his eye that wasn't covered by his headband over the field. There would be many people that would lose their precious people today. It reminded him of his own losses, his father who committed suicide to atone for his dishonor, his mother, and worse, his friends. First Obito, who died on his first mission in the war. He had lost his eye on that mission and Obito had asked Rin, their medic, to implant one of his into Kakashi. Then not long after Rin was lost to him as well, it just seemed that everyone he loved or cared for was taken from him in life. The only one he had left really was his sensei, the new Hokage, and his wife. Well, technically not, but he knew that she was wife in everything but name. He was glad that his teacher and mentor had found a woman like her and were having a child soon. It seemed in even all this death there was at least something to look forward to. He had been so engrossed he actually missed the Anbu that landed next to him until he actually hit the ground. "Kakashi Hatake, you are to report to the Hokage Tower." "Oh man, I was just resting too," he grunted with the effort to get him. "Do you need assistance?" the masked ninja asked. "No, I'm fine, just needed to catch my second wind is all." He waved it off as he made his way to the tower. It was a long way for him, but he eventually made it to the large building under the mountain with the faces of the Hokages on them. He climbed the steps, not surprised that there were no guards. Everyone had been pulled off their usual duties for the demon. He found the office of the Hokage and opened them up, but he was a bit confused to see not the Hokage but the previous Hokage there along with his sensei's teacher. Both of them had on looks on their faces that suddenly make Kakashi's stomach twist in on itself. "Sarutobi-sama, Jiraiya-sama, I was expected Hokage-sama to be here," he said as he walked over to them. It was then he noticed that there was a sleeping form in Sarutobi's arms. "I'm afraid that the Hokage, I'm sorry Kakashi, he's dead." Sarutobi hung his head. Kakashi felt like he was crushed under those boulders all over again on the mission that had killed Obito. The last precious person he had in his life was gone. He felt hollow inside and very alone in the world. He hadn't felt like this since his father's death. He nearly fell to his knees, but he tried to keep on a brave face in front of his elders. But it was hard, so very hard. He just wanted to just sink to his knees and cry out his pain to the heavens. Why? Why him? Why must everyone I get close to die? He thought to himself and didn't notice how the old Toad Sage walked up to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I know, boy, I know how you feel. I love the kid like a son, he deserved better than this. But it was his choice and the only way to stop the demon." Jiraiya told him. "How?" Kakashi asked, not looking at the older man. "As far as we can tell, he used a forbidden art that sealed the demon into a host body. It will impression the demon for all time, but the cost to balance such a technique out requires the person performing it to sacrifice their own life." Sarutobi explained and walked over to the young man. "This is Naruto, the Hokage's son. He used him to seal away the demon." He showed the snow-haired young man the child. Kakashi looked and he could see the resemblance. The yellow hair and blue eyes were very alike. Although it was strange seeing what looked like whisker marks on his face. The young boy looked up at him with curious blue eyes. Kakashi actually grinned a bit. His teacher would have been a great father and he knew that the man had been looking forward to this. But what of? He trailed off asking about the mother, but the looks he got told him all that he needed. I'm sorry she died giving birth. When the demon attacked, she had been injured, and with the birth, it was just too much for her body. Jiraiya told him. There is a letter for you here. He made one out to you to read. Sarutobi pointed with a free hand to the desk. Kakashi walked slowly towards it. It was strange not seeing his sensei there behind the desk. Images came to his mind of seeing him there working, how he seemed to smile a lot at him, giving him his missions or just talking to him. He saw the picture there of him and his original team, and then of his sensei's team when he was a kid. He knew there was a picture of his lover in his desk drawer as well. It just seemed like a very bad dream, one that he wanted to wake up from. That he was still alive and he would see him tomorrow. But as he picked up the letter, he knew deep down that he was just being stupid. He was gone. He opened the letter and read what was on there. Hello Kakashi, I know by now you're reading this and you know what happened. I'm sorry to leave you. I know you've lost so much in your life and I wish I didn't have to. But as Hokage, I had to put the lives of my people above my own life and happiness. There is so much I could tell you. You were always the brightest student I had, and I know you'll do me and the village proud. In fact, I'm already very proud of you. You were like a son to me, just like how Obito and Rin were like my own children. When we lost them, I felt like I had failed as a teacher. I was always afraid that I would lose you next, but it seems that you'll outlive me after all. Sorry, stupid, to make a joke here, but I had to do something to lighten the mood, right? Kakashi, I want you to know that I'll always watch over you, but I want you to do me a favor. Please, I trust you to keep an eye on my son Naruto. He'll have a large burden placed on him as the jailer for the demon, and I wanted him to be seen as a hero for his duty. Please watch over him from time to time. I think I can rest peacefully knowing that you will keep an eye out for him. I have to go. I can see that fox is already near the walls. Please live well, my student. Kakashi read it over a few times, trying to memorize each word into his mind. By the end, he felt the tears fall from his uncovered eye. He hung his head as he closed his eye, trying to not break down at the moment. Meanwhile, Sarutobi and Jiraiya were talking about what to do with Naruto. I'm not sure about this, Jiraiya said to his old mentor. I mean, you honestly want to tell the entire village that this boy holds the demon in his gut? He asked him. It was his wish, and he is the son of the Hokage. He said to his student. Look, I know you have faith in people and all, but look at what just happened out there. I honestly don't think people will react well to this. Hell, they might see the child as only a monster to be killed. The Toad Sage. I do have faith in the people of this village. Like you did with Orochimaru? Jiraiya said coldly. Sarutobi's head came back as if he had been visibly struck. Then he cast his look down, and Jiraiya knew he hit the right place to prove his point. Hell, Orochimaru had been his teammate as a kid. He had been the genius, Tsunade, the woman who was known as revolutionizing the medical ninja corps, and himself. Well, not the most well-known, he pulled his own weight as a master of seals. He had never really liked Orochimaru, and when he went bad it was no surprise to him, although he still felt betrayed. That bastard had experimented on his own people, the people he swore to protect, and when Sarutobi went after him, he had let him go in a moment of weakness. Sarutobi himself knew of that failure. He had honestly not seen the signs, although they had been there. He had seen how angry he had been when he hadn't named Orochimaru as Hokage after him. But he never thought that his own student would go to such evil lengths. Looking down at the child, he wondered if he was making another misjudgment. He should be put in a safe place. His father had lots of enemies, and they would love nothing more than to kill his son. Maybe put him into an orphanage. With all the death out there, it could be easy to say that his parents were killed in the battle. Lord knows how orphans were made today anyway. Jiraiya muttered to himself. No. Both men turned to see Kakashi looking at them. They had forgotten that the boy had been there the entire time. I'll take him in. Jiraiya was the first to object. What? Kid, you're still a kid yourself, you can't possible. I will, Kakashi said in an even tone. He is my sensei's son. He asked me to look out for him. He gave me so much in life, this is the least I can do to honor him. Kakashi meant his words. The little boy was the last living link to his sensei, someone who had been the only father figure in his life after his father's death. Looking after his son was the least he could do to honor the man, and besides, the thought of the Hokage's son living in some orphanage was not something he could bear. The boy deserved more than that, he was sure of it. Kid, this won't be easy. Plus, with taking care of him, how will you deal when you have to go on missions? Jiraiya asked him, crossing his arms. I'll do what I can, And I could leave him in the care of certain services if I need to take missions for cash, but I've saved up a lot besides what I have in my family holdings as well. The young man said. You really going to let this kid go through with this? Jiraiya asked the old Hokage. He looked down at the child who had fallen asleep, and then to the young man. He knew all too well of Kakashi's life story and he was surprised the young man would take up such a responsibility. But maybe it would be better than just an orphanage for the young boy, there would already be too many children without parents tonight. Perhaps I could use you on the Anbu teams, I'll need more to fill in spots for at least a few years. It will keep you close and although they don't have a pay for A or S class missions they will afford you a bit of an easier time. Until that is Naruto is a bit older and you can go back to going out on missions. Sarutobi also knew that Kakashi was well on his way to Anbu anyway, but this would help in both matters. With so many of their own dead their village would need more security in case other villages wanted to take advantage of it. Jiraiya gave a small grunt, no one was sure if he was for or against it but it seemed like Kakashi wouldn't move on the subject. You truly do want to do this then you can try but remember this might be a lot more difficult than any ninja missions, he warned the young man. He still remembered how he had raised his own children, not to mention his estranged son. Kakashi nodded his head as he walked towards the young boy. He knew this would be tough but he had to do this, if only in the memory of the Hokage plus one day Naruto should know of the kind of man his father was. And he could always teach little Naruto the things he had been taught as well, passing on the knowledge from Naruto's father through him. Sarutobi slowly handed the small boy to Kakashi as he held him for the first time. Naruto moved a bit, opened his eyes for a moment and then went back to sleep. Kakashi looked at the young boy and even though his heart was heavy and filled with a hole left in it, looking at the young boy filled him with something. In a way a part of his teacher would live on in Naruto. Well now that's out of the way what do we tell the council? This will get out eventually you know? The Toad Sage asked his teacher. I'm not sure, maybe we can tell only the elders and keep it secret by law. Only people of Jornin or higher rank could know but maybe keep it all secret and the young boy's legacy and his task as jailer only to be known to us in this room and to him when the time is right. Sarutobi would have to think on this. He just hoped that when the time came he could think of the best way to deal with Naruto's secrets but in the meantime he would let Kakashi try his hand at parenting and he wished the boy luck. He would need all of the luck he could get.